available for this important statement. I think it is clear, based on the statements made by members of the opposition this morning relative to this data protection bill, that we clearly thought that the government has definitely shown a sort of a distaste for involving the people of the country in a very important and significant matter that deals with all aspects of the lives of the people. So it is thought that, given that they insisted, despite all the advice from all 5 members of the opposition, that we should give time for the consultative process, they proceeded. So let me just make it clear here on behalf of the team that the data collection bills are generally regarded to be an important component of a legal framework in democratic countries all over the world. And it's aimed at protecting personal data. As such, I wish to place on record that the New National Party is not opposed, as we said this morning, to the establishment of an appropriate legal framework for protecting personal data of all its citizens. And to justify that position, we want to point out that on the 28th of July 2021, the New National Party in government held stakeholder engagement to develop a framework for data protection and privacy in Grenada. The stakeholder engagements were facilitated by the Cabinet Office with the assistance of the Ministry of Information Technology, and it was titled, and I quote, "Consultation Towards the Development of an Information Management System and Data Protection Policy." The findings of the stakeholder engagement were reduced to a policy paper, and that policy paper was presented to Cabinet in the 3rd quarter of 2021 to be approved as the Government Information Management Policy. The Information Management Policy, together with the 2011, and that's important because we stated that today, the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union Model Data Protection Bill, which was done way back in 2011, and the policy for use in the OECS was meant to be used as a starting point to assist in preparing a data protection policy and draft data protection bill for all OECS member states. There were several issues concerning the contents of the data protection policy and the baseline model bill, which was to be discussed by all countries in the OECS. And given the new developments, and this is changing, as you know, almost every day, there's a revolution in the whole question of technology and data information. And that model bill, therefore, was to be looked at by each individual country, and adjustments be made accordingly relative to the consultative process, as was agreed on at that particular time. And it must be pointed out, this model bill came up 11 years ago. So a lot could have happened, and a lot had happened during the process. And any event, the fact that you are now talking about a bill 11 years ago is a clear indication, even if we had done the relevant consultative process before, and it was not done, as I pointed out, given all that has happened over the years in times around the globe, it would be understood how important privacy information should be treated. In fact, I think if one of you listen to and watch television, I was watching a program with Rachel Maddow 2 nights ago, and he or she pointing out how the technology is now available for people to be able to find out information from people, personal information, just using certain technologies that now become available. And the American government is now looking at ways in which they can deal with that particular problem for the security of the country and the whole question of protecting personal information. Now it follows that at the cabinet meeting on the 28th of March 2022, just a few months, couple of months before the general elections, via cabinet conclusion 254, we approved the adoption of the ECCB draft policy bill for data protection legislation, and of course asked the legal department to work with that bill in the process of coming up with a final draft that cabinet will then have a second look at. And it was pointed out that the consultative process must be thorough. Now, there are provisions in the proposed bill that is worrying to all of us, and it places sweeping powers in the hands of politicians and a selected information commission that will infringe on the fundamental rights of citizens in this country without recourse. In fact, I'm sure you all are hearing already, and we made the point, and I pointed it out, that we're hearing that persons' private telephones are being tapped already in this country. A case in point, the definition of personal data and sensitive personal data, which is a subsection thereof. It gives the minister, whoever that minister is, the powers to designate data as personal or sensitive as he or she thinks it is. Moreover, section 20 and 21 of the draft allowed for the said minister to disclose personal data as he or she deems to be in the public interest. This is quite revealing. Additionally, under section 7, subsection 2, ministers in general can process data in the name of conducting government business. Now, what the present government does not realize, today you're in government now. You could be in opposition a few years from now. And therefore, a government can turn around and use these laws as they are now against persons of the former government. So it's not something that we're pointing out is just because the New National Party feels strongly about this, and we should, but because it's affects every single citizen in this country. We are aware of a report where ministers have sought to interrogate police officers demanding sensitive information. That is well known. In a heightened atmosphere, and is well known in a heightened atmosphere of political victimization, which is quite evident today. And a general consideration of what is taking place, we consider it is dangerous to have actions of this nature, a bill coming forward where we can use data information and weaponize it to pursue people who are deemed to be against on misalignment with the elusive transformational agenda and catchy slogan that a government may develop in the future, whether it's now or in the future. Furthermore, the Information Commission or any authorized office thereof as appointed by a minister again is another concerning creature of this bill. And even if you insert the Governor General or someone, the Governor General takes advice from the Prime Minister. So it doesn't change the price of cocoa. This body, not a law enforcement personnel, is given the power to search seize equipment, question citizens of this country. There are really no codes of practice governing the Information Commission, and they are exonerated. Listen to this, they are exonerated from liability if acting in good faith in paragraph 45. So if they claim they're acting in good faith, no one can touch them, even the greatest damage that they do. This is not consistent with international practice, and it's extremely dangerous, to say the least. There are some of the reasons why there is a need, in our view, that we should have seriously national consultation on this important bill. We mentioned to the government in the early stages before they moved to accept moving the standing order. In fact, the standard practice in our parliamentary system is bills of tremendous national importance. Is usually, if it is the decision of the government to go forward to Parliament, it is usually laid at first reading in Parliament, and they allow a process to evolve over a period of time to be able to get the information from all consultative organizations, all organizations in the consultative process going forward. So that bill remains in first reading. In other words, to move in one sitting to suspend the standing order. The standing orders are there for a reason. You suspend it under urgent and, of course, very rare circumstances. But a bill of this nature, you use a procedure that is not abnormal one to use to push this through or push it down the throats of all members of Parliament in one sitting of the House. This, to me, it does not help the government. The government has to realize that the citizens of the country counts more than every one of us. We listen to the people, the amount of calls and the concerns are being raised. And the significant thing, even the Bar Association is indicating that they knew nothing about this. Even the Bar Association. You would expect the Prime Minister being a member of the Bar, and of course a former member of the Bar, if he still is, would at least be talking to members of the legal fraternity. It's clear. And the Attorney General you would expect. But it tells you how far removed from what is taking place that certain members of government are at this particular time. So you would have thought that the churches, this bill infringes on the right of religious organizations too. And they will find that out. We have not heard anything from the churches organization all around the country. It also infringes on the right of workers. Where the trade union movement in this? How could we be sitting in Parliament going through every stage of this bill without any idea of the feelings or views of these important groups in the country? The business community. A data protection bill involves aspects of decision making in business. We have not heard anything from the business community. They were not involved, as far as we know. And it was not said in the Parliament that they were involved. So having said all this, it is clear that this bill it was unfortunate that the government did not heed the advice of all members of the opposition and decided to push the bill through at this particular time without giving an opportunity for the consultative process to be done. I've heard it said, after we do this, we can then have listen to the voices of, well, why pass the bill and then go and consult? It seems to me, you consult first and then you pass. So even if it is passed today and there's a national outcry, that I believe there will be. So you have to come back to Parliament and go and change clauses and put aspects of the bill, which to me does not make sense. Logically, that clearly can be the approach. So just wanted to make this statement here today so that members of the press and the public, in fact, you members of the press would know that this has impact on your job. And you also should be consulted, and I'm not sure that any one of you was consulted going forward. So it seems to me so many sections of our society should be called on. And we offered, as a government, as a party, we offered to join with the government in effecting a consultative process in the shortest period of time. We joined with the government. So we are showing our cooperative spirit in going forward. But even that did not, it went on deaf ears. So that is our position. We then would have to decide going forward, how do we meet with and consult with a course of action going forward as far as the country is concerned. Yes?
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. We now invite questions from the media. We have in person MTV.
All right, good afternoon. Troy Gill with MTV News. Mr. Opposition Leader, with regards to the category of people that you mentioned, sectors, businesses, and so forth, that is going to be affected, what are your recommendations for these individuals? Because as you mentioned, you don't believe that it was exhausted enough, there was not enough consultation done. So considering, as you mentioned, that what has happened is going to affect these category of individuals, what are your recommendations?
I understand that some organizations are already taking initiative to make contact with the government about their feelings after. They would certainly want to look at the bill itself, not just take the word of the government or the opposition, but go through it themselves. And I'm suggesting that the media should be doing this as a group, looking at specific clauses in the bill. They assume that the religious organization should be examining the bill to find out, to see what room, what possibility exists that can infringe on their rights as individual persons in the society as far as their religious views are concerned. I assume the same thing will be done by the business community, because this can, in fact, as I pointed out, affect the business. That would be the approach. And certainly what we will be doing, the trade union movement would certainly have a major role to play. And so certainly we will be in contact with these organizations as they wish in going forward. But we certainly intend to start taking this bill and what is happening in the country as a whole to the people of the country. And that is how we intend to educate people going forward, because this can affect everybody, and we believe that everybody should be informed. Okay?
Thank you,
All
Dr.
right.
Mitchell.
Yes, go ahead, my dear. We have serious problem with aspects of the bill, but we are a political organization, so people can always, there's always a tendency to assume when the opposition speaks or the government speaks, they have a biased approach. So that's why we are suggesting, based on our concerns, that the individual members of social partners and the people of the country take note, because this bill is not just about impact on a politician or a political organization. It's about impact on the daily lives of persons. We're talking about private data. The privacy of individual can be affected. And you should not be leaving that to the whims and fancy of a political person in office, whether it's today or 3 years from now, 4 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now. My view is that it should not be there. It should not be done that way. Okay?
We have some hands raised via the online platform. Callistra?
Good afternoon, thank you. Afternoon, Opposition Leader, Dr. Michelle, how are you?
I'm fine, Kalisha, and how are you too?
I'm good, sir. The bill, it was said numerous times in the House, this was your bill, your legal draft, or your administration. Explain to me, I'm not sure if you did in your intro, so explain to me what were the problematic areas that caused you to delay the bill? Why was the bill delayed? You've been sitting on it for quite
Yes.
some time. And also, did you yourself, your draft people, advise you on any specific areas of the bill?
Yes. Okay. Kalisha, the first thing I want to correct you, that it is not my bill. That's the first thing. It's no. I'm saying it was. No, let me explain. Let me explain. Let me explain. Don't think I'm getting at you because it was said in Parliament. It is not NNP bill. It was not my government bill. I did point out, and the Prime Minister sidestepped that piece of information, that the genesis of this started in 2011. What was the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union draft bill, which was presented to the government of the day then. So if you could say it is my bill, then you could say it's the NDC bill of 2008 to 2013. So its successive governments had gone through that bill and asked for adjustment in each island that was expected for their consideration of aspects of this bill that they would want to implement in their own country. This is not the first time. We have had several bills. CARICOM has presented bills for the entire CARICOM before in each country, and the countries tailor it, those bills. There's that model bill for their own individual countries as they see fit. So that is the process. What we are saying is, when our legal department was asked to proceed after Cabinet says we will accept the draft going forward for discussion, they looked at it and they had said that it was not in a position to proceed with the consultative process as it was, so they had to make certain changes. That is why it never went to Parliament. That's exactly because the consultative process was not done. So what this government should have done is start the process. That is what we are saying. While we did not agree with some aspects of this bill, as we did not do then, we wanted the country, the different organization to give their input. That is what we said. So the discussion today should have been about the consultative process, not the specific bill, as it says about whether it's NNP bill or NDC bill. It is a consultative process that we agree on, and especially in the context of what is taking place. And Callisto, remember, this is 11 years. Remember the revolution that has taken place in data collection and information, and also technology has been so rapid. In fact, we may pass a bill today, and maybe in 3 months' time, you may have to make adjustments based on the revolution taking place. I mentioned, I don't know if you heard me, I listened to Rachel Maddow, if you remember, that's the MSNBC personnel, discussing data protection and privacy that can be affected by the state of art of technology now taking place. And even the US government is coming to terms that they are worried what will happen to citizens if this thing become available, that people can make it difficult for you to have any privacy at all. So the necessity for thorough consultation when you're doing anything like this is sacrosanct. That's my view.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you very much,
Good.
Kalistra. I see Linda Strika.
Linda?
Hello, and thank you. Are you hearing me clearly? Hello?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. My question for now is, the bill would have passed probably about 15 minutes ago, and it was a passed with amendment. What's your view on the amendment? And secondly, the Honorable Lennox, and you mentioned that the bill is required for the implementation of two different projects. And this project is in your time. Can you tell us what these projects are about?
No, I didn't hear the second part. You said the bill was passed a while ago, but I didn't hear you clearly.
Yeah, my question is, what are your views on the amendment? Because the bill was passed amendment.
Well, these are, to my view, cosmetic amendments because the substance remains. And the point is, what are these organizations, critical organizations, saying about the bill? That's our concern. They have to give their input. And my feeling is, no, you pass the bill, and then you said, as the Prime Minister pointed out, people could come and make intervention. No, every time, so the Bar Association comes and says we cannot accept this. So what do you go back to Parliament and then change aspects of the bill? The Media Association comes and says, well, this could infringe on our work, this section and this clause. You go back and make changes. So it is a backward approach. It seems to me the first approach is to be the consultation. And we offered in the help to join with a select committee chosen by the Parliament, 2 members of government, 2 members of the opposition, and a member appointed by the Speaker to chair. And that's it. We offered suggestion to that effect. And we'll join with the consultative process, and we say if government is on a haste because of certain legislative or developmental activities that will be hampered by the non-implementation of this bill, then let's agree on a timetable. We'll go with you and join with you. But that was refused. Okay?
My other question is, Honorable Lennox and you mentioned that the bill is required for the implementation of 2 projects, and these 2 projects were there since you were in the administration. Tell us about these projects and what you...
Well, I cannot tell you specifically about which projects because the bill never affected the developmental activities that the government then was presenting. What we know is that we are asking for certain funds for activities, and they were willing to provide it, but they say they also want to see us move with 2 bills, disaster management policy bill, which is another one coming up today, and also the data protection bill. In other words, they did not say if we do not do it now, we will not get help. As you know, the government itself said when they came in, they met a pregnant treasury. So there was no issue that we were not getting the support from the international community as it. So I don't know, we would have to ask Mr. Andrews what specifically talking about. There was no development activities that were affected. When they say this, I ask, how you are so concerned about this and you allow $70-odd million of grant money to disappear on the Western Main Road? If you are that so concerned about development, you allow $75 million to disappear from the treasury of the country, potential resources, that grant money that the New National Party got from the visit of Prime Minister Cameron when he came to Grenada and announced it. We lost this, almost all of that money would have been lost. Although the government has said nothing, but we have lots of information to that effect. So if they're so concerned about satisfying some initiative of the World Bank, how come you had $70-odd million that you allowed to go down the drain? That's your love. Okay? Okay, colleagues?
Any other questions?
All right. Okay, guys, so I want to thank you. I know this is lunchtime. I've been interfering with some of you lunch. So I want to thank you all for the coming at this particular time to what you call an impromptu press conference, because we really did not plan this, because we are hoping that the government will certainly proceed to heed our advice, because we did in fact try to provide advice to them, and all 5 members of the opposition counseled this and voted for not going forward with the second reading, with the suspension of the standing orders. Thank you, colleagues. All the best.